Welcome to The Sober Unicorn. We are a gay hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I'm your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Well, hey everybody, it's Holden back here again with The Sober Unicorn. I hope everybody's doing absolutely fantabulous, and if you're not, hopefully your day gets better. So today we have a repeat guest. His name is Charlie Gray. He is the author of At Least I'm Not the Frog. I believe it's episode 4, if I'm not mistaken, here on the Sober Unicorn podcast. He is actually coming out with a second book next month, and well, actually this month when this episode drops. But he he's been up to a lot. It's probably been close to a year since we recorded. So how are you, Charlie?
I'm doing very well, Holden. I'm just living my best sober life. It's a life I didn't even think was possible in addiction, but I think that's how all of us feel. So, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. And what's crazy, reading your books, I'm just like, shit, how the fuck did Charlie get sober?
How did I get sober? That's why it's taken 3 books to tell.
So I know, of course, At Least I'm Not the Frog is your memoir regarding your kind of it kind of started off when like you were drinking with family and then went into all your facilities and then ended with I think it ended with you getting sober, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've read it. So what has life been like since you wrote your first book?
Yeah, no, and you had it right. It ended with me being sober in present time, and then from there, yeah, I've had the opportunity to experience and live life in a present, sober mindset. And for the first like year, it was like being a newborn, just like experiencing life this way. And then in my second year, that's when I was like, ooh, I've like got my sea legs about me. Like I kind of get this thing called life, and I've been doing it for a minute now without booze, and it's fucking epic. And so I went to Europe in sobriety. I've gone to New York a couple times. I've just really embraced like, live the best life that you can, because you don't know like when it's going to be gone, and I spent so much time wasting it by being wasted that yeah, I'm just living it as best I can right now.
Of course, and I know you said for 2 years you went to Switzerland and France. Of course, France is very known for some of its wines. Um, did you get any type of FOMO, like not being able to indulge?
No, no, you know what? I mean, listen, I've done it. There is no party I haven't been to. There's nothing when it comes to booze that I haven't done. I was fortunate enough when I was younger to travel to Europe once before when I was 18. And I'm actually writing about that in this third book, because when I look back at that trip as an 18-year-old boy, I was smashed the whole time. And this, I was not even a drinker yet. I was so mild, innocent little angel baby in high school. So to look back and know that before the addiction was even in my realm, I was acting like an alcoholic on that trip. I'm just like, I don't, I've done it. I've done it and I've done it and I've done it. And now in my everyday present life, I don't, I don't have any FOMO on that nasty booze.
That's good. I know that I still somewhat experience FOMO. It's not so much of the missing of the parties and stuff like that. 'Cause, like, now that I'm sober, I'm like, bro, why did I even go to the bar? That was so boring. But
And expensive.
yeah, oh my god, for real. But it's when like the new seltzers come out, like Mountain Dew is coming out with one, Sonic came out with one.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
like that's when I'm just like, gosh
I'm
darn it.
like, what do they taste like? I've never tasted Fireball. I was trying to get sober around the time that Fireball was exploding. So I'm always like, huh, I do wonder what it tastes like, but there's, I mean, right
Satan's
now,
testicles.
oh, that's what I assume. I mean, it tastes like hot damn, I'm sure. It tastes like
Yes,
booze and some cinnamon and regret and despair. So
for
I
real,
don't
because
need it.
Fireball actually has some ingredients in it that are actually like, well, of course, alcohol in general is damaging to your body, but it actually has some extra additives that are like really
Yeah, it's like
fucking
not
harmful to
even
you.
legal in the UK or something, right? Or some shit like
What?
that. I don't know. I'm out here. This is how rumors get started. I'm gonna get sued by Fireball. I don't know shit. I'm
I mean,
just.
essentially, we got free speech up in this bitch. Um, so of course, you traveled. You're talking about your third book a lot, but now you're dropping your second book. What next month? I don't know the exact date of it.
Yeah, yeah.
The day
December
this
13th.
the 13th. Okay, the day this episode comes out is the day that his book will be available for purchase. Um,
Perf.
but um, what? Of course, after your first book, did you find the feedback from people reading it um, to be the inspiration to write a second, or did you already know that you were going to go for a second book?
No, definitely the feedback helped so much. I didn't know what to anticipate when I put the first one out. Of course, I thought that my friends and, my close friends and my family were going to be like, "Hey, that's really cool. Like this is a really huge accomplishment that you've done." I didn't expect, people from different countries, from different states to find my social media and reach out to me. And I have fostered some really, I mean, even with you, like just some of the coolest friendships. I did not expect that. So once that started happening, and I noticed like a trend when people were reaching out to me, they were all kind of identifying with the same aspect of they felt that it was very authentic and they felt they could relate and they were able to give me clear examples of how they related. And it all kind of centered around relapse. And so when I was writing, like, I was like, what am I going to write next after the first book was published? And I really was like, I want to write about addiction because it's what I know, but I just wrote my whole addiction. So I don't really know what to do. And then I started thinking and I was like, there is stuff that I purposefully left out of the first one because I was like, I don't have the space, the time to put it in. And oh, that would be so fun to write one day. But yeah, October of 2021, I had some people, a succession of people over the weeks. I published in July, and then by October, enough people had reached out to me that I was like, wow, I should do something. And that's what kind of was the birth of the second book. And I had this moment of rehab in 2019 that was just had always stood out for me. So I was like, that's what I'm writing. I'm going to make it short. I know what I want to do. And it was an amazing journey writing that book. It was like living in the world again, but in a like a happier way, I guess, because I was like, I was where I was at now and not there. And I could also see what I had learned and how I had grown and how that rehab really was truly the start of me finding sobriety when I look back now.
Because I know that your first book we touched on you well you touched on sorry not we you touched on a little bit of rehab romance just barely
Yeah.
in the first book, and I was like, I need this information, and you would not give it to me because it came out in this book,
Yeah.
and so I was happy to see something blossom, and I was like, never mind, we're not going to give too much away. So I was just happy to see things blossom between you and this individual. So before you know what, I'm gonna switch things up. So before we go into the book, um, why don't you talk about like how important? Because I know if anybody has an experience with rehab, it's definitely you. If
It
anybody's
is
read
me.
the first book, but
It is me.
how important is rehab to you? Was rehab to you? And do you advocate for rehab?
Perfect. Yes. Okay. Let me take a sip of tea because I got some shit to say about
Well, you
rehab
about to
here.
spill the damn tea, so sip it up before you spill it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I am a huge advocate for rehab and I support it. I know, how do I know that there's a lot of books out there that do not. And all I can say is going to rehab is most likely not going to get you sober. Now there are cases where people I have an actually a very good friend that I've written about, and I wrote about him in the first book, who went to rehab one time and has been sober ever since. That's very rare. It doesn't happen that often. But what rehab gives you is an extraordinarily unique experience to be with individuals that are in the same shape as you physically, mentally, emotionally. And there's such, it is trauma bonding, but it's bonding. So let's just not get too hung up on the word trauma. It's bonding because in that moment you need it. You need someone to share your pain with and let them share their pain with you. And you can only find that in rehab. You cannot, I've searched, you cannot find it anywhere else, that you can walk into a rehab full of five other people and they're just as busted as you immediately connect and you immediately start healing. Now, what you do with everything you learn in rehab and all those wonderful experiences and relationships is one thing. I mean, I was so fortunate to go to so many, and it never saved me. I got out and relapsed the same day or a couple days after, but I learned and I grew. And so if it takes you 12, there's no shame in that. If it takes you one, that's wonderful. I think we need to be very careful when we start bashing rehab and we start putting projections of our own hopes of wanting people to get better onto it, and just realizing that it is a very safe space for people. So that's why I will always advocate for it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems because I mean, I don't have any experience in rehab, so I never had to. Well, I want to say I never had to. I should have gone to rehab.
Everyone should go to
Um,
rehab just to learn
like
about themselves.
exactly, but I of course was like I have to work. I didn't think about the FMLA and corporate jobs
Oh yeah.
actually supporting that.
Oh yeah, you
Um,
get your pay 80% of your paycheck, and yeah, it's a but we just don't know, there's not the education on it that yes, if you have a job, you're insurance and you have insurance, you can go, it's paid, you're fine, you're not going to get fired. And they actually, it's a huge deal. They cannot discriminate against you because you have, a disease.
yeah, I know that my old company, bastards. No, my old company, they there was a funeral director that was an alcoholic, and he went to our bosses and was like, "Hey, I need help." I mean, he was drinking, he was bringing a Yeti full of vodka every day to work.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, not take the Yeti. I mean, that's what I did. That is what you're supposed to do when you're in active addiction, because I did it. But no, you're right. He should have did something bad happen. I'm like
No,
jumping
no,
ahead.
they actually no, you're not jumping ahead. They actually, because that industry has such a high addiction rate, they immediately sent him to rehab, kept his job for like three.
Yeah, yeah.
The company didn't even use the medical insurance. The company paid for the rehab,
And
even
there's
though
so many stories like that.
I don't support the company anymore. But that is very beneficial. So the thing is, if you're listening and you are struggling with addiction, like I mean, I'm not gonna say go to your employer like, immediately, because of course if it's like heroin or something, like I don't know if they're
No,
gonna do
call a
it.
rehab. Call a
Okay,
rehab. If you're
okay,
struggling, call a rehab. They will coach you through. Actually, just call the rehab, because when you get to rehab, they have people that are paid to take care of contacting your job. But if you're comfortable going to your employer, go to your employer. Just pick up the phone and call a rehab. They'll take
okay,
care of
good
it
to
for
know
you.
because I'm like, let me not recommend this, and then people start getting fired left and right and trying to come for me.
No, I got you. I got you. I know how to do this. Call a rehab.
So let's. Oh, and for one, I am mad at you still. Just by the way,
Oh, oh, why?
how dare you come to Dallas and not call me?
Oh, I was in Dallas for a Son Holo concert, because Son
Yes.
Holo, that's another thing. He's all in my writing. Son Holo, if you're listening, I love you. He's changed my life. His music is amazing, but
But it's so funny,
anyways.
I because I got a digital copy of the book because it's not released yet, and
Yeah,
when
because
I
you're special.
saw San Hollow, I really thought it was a typo. I was like, oh, his editor will take care of that. So it's funny that it's actually a real. I thought it was Han Solo, and you were just talking Star Wars or Star
No,
Wars.
no, it's a real, he's a real, it's EDM. He does future bass is like his type of music. Yeah, I've been in love with him. Really, I found him in active addiction, and he's done so much for me. So props to him.
Yeah, most definitely. So I mean, music. Honestly, Macklemore helped me get through some of my issues with relapse. So I mean, music can help a ton of people. It's so
Oh
therapeutic.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
before I start asking my list of questions, why don't you kind of give everybody a small gist of what this book encompasses? This and it is called The Frog's Bottle. It'll be released. I'll link everything in bio when this episode comes out.
Yes, yes. It's called The Frog's Bottle. And really, this book covers August of 2019 in my life. So, what had happened, I had been living in sober houses for about a year, and then I got my own apartment feeling like, I'm ready for the next step. I hadn't had a year sober. I had about 3 months sober. And I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can be on my own. I could not. I very quickly got my fourth DUI and then quickly lost my job and then was only drinking. And so I was in quite the pickle. I mean, I had no job, I was looking at prison, and for the first time in my life, I was seriously thinking about just like running away. Not anything, I wasn't feeling suicidal or anything like that. I was wanting to just run away and hide so that I could just drink and not deal with anything. And I did that for about a week. And then I called a rehab and I went to this rehab and had one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life. It was a very small rehab, it was a very small number of patients, but we were such an eclectic group. I mean, we ranged from like suburban grandmothers to pretty hardened felons. Then there's just this little gay boy in between having this romance with this bisexual guy named Aiden. And it was just, it couldn't have been more perfect though, like because we all represented such different characters, really, we meshed so well and became this family almost, and we were so vulnerable with one another and took care of one another in such a unique way that I had to write about it. Not really as like a go to rehab, you're going to find this, because you're probably not. This was, like I said, an extraordinarily unique experience, but it's a testament to just how much other addicts and alcoholics will love you when you're in your addiction. We will give you all the love.
Yeah, and the rehab I feel gives you a safe place to be able to
Yeah.
like break those barriers down. Because I know for me, when it came to the rooms of the 12-step program, like even though I know they were all alcoholics, it's do they have issues with the drug addiction, this addiction, that addiction, and so I kept a wall up. And I think in a rehab facility because like you're fucked at that point,
Well,
and
yeah.
so I think it's easier to break that barrier down when stepping into a rehab facility.
Oh, it's so much easier because to even get yourself to rehab, you've had to let so much crumble down and be vulnerable to get to that point. Yeah, it's amazing.
So talking about sex, um,
Uh-huh. Let's talk
so
about sex.
one of your friends in rehab requested that you leave the door open for her so she can bring in her manses because she needed
Yeah.
some. So did you get caught?
No, no, this is my great friend Daphne, who I am still in contact with to this day. She is an amazing woman. She's been sober. She is honestly another, maybe you can go to rehab once and get sober. No, you can, but she's another friend of mine that was her first rehab and she has remained sober ever since leaving there. And I have kept in contact with her. I'm so proud of her. But yeah, when she was there, she had this fine. He was fine. I mean, he was fine as fuck. I would have slipped him into if I could. But yeah, she needed some help getting some booty in rehab. And I was like, bitch, we're going to get kicked out, but I got you. And no, we didn't get caught. And even if we did get caught, I honestly believe at that point, I mean, and I've made a few notes of this in the book. Even the staff was commenting when we were there just how unique we were, and there was this sense that they were partial to us and we were able to kind of bend the rules in ways maybe that other groups hadn't. So I don't even think we would have been in trouble, but no, I think we actually pulled it off, which was pretty slick. So
Like I kind of hope that these people in this rehab are listening to this story or reading the book now. So like, oh hot damn it, fuck did these bitches pull this shit off?
she knows all about, yeah. She will listen, yeah, Daphne. So
Yeah, and I mean there was points in times in the book too that you
That's
Zeke.
not her real name, by the way.
No, I assumed. Zeke is one of the counselors, I believe.
Zeke is a another patient there.
Okay,
He's a
so
heroin addict, heroin and
who was the
pills.
one that he kept telling the groups that y'all are not like y'all are special, that y'all are not like any other group.
Oh, that was Max.
There we
Max was
go.
he's an elderly gentleman. He was like in his late 60s, and he was actually my primary therapist counselor while I was there as well. He's a great man. I I called right before I started writing this book. I actually called the treatment center that I went to, and I was like, "Hey, can I use the name?" And I don't know if something had happened in between me going there or not, but they they just never like I called twice and they said they were going to ask the appropriate and they never did. So I was really bummed that I couldn't use the real name. And then I asked about Max and they kind of talked like he was never there. And I was like, what? Are y'all on drugs at the front? Like maybe y'all need to. Anyways, that's completely beside the point. But Max is who you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say because it like you said, I mean, y'all were a very different group compared to others. So, like you said, if y'all got caught, maybe nothing would have happened.
No,
So,
no.
y'all were in a book study. Y'all were talking about relationships.
Uh huh.
I don't talking about whether how to avoid them, mend them, balance. Um, do you have you been in a relationship since getting sober? And if you have not, how are other relationships like family wise in your life?
Bet this is a great question. I have not been in a relationship since getting sober. No. And it wasn't anything done by choice or any, well, I mean, it was. It most certainly was. I don't know why I said that. But it's just, it's not a priority for me. I think I spent so many years playing the game, thinking I wanted a relationship, dating, drinking, having no life, that I'm so hyper focused on establishing my life for myself and building my life that it's just it's not of importance to me, and I know that that will come when it's supposed to and it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait for it, but I can until it gets here. So it's just it's not a thing for me. But other relationships, my relationships with my family and my friends, have just continued to get richer and deeper the longer I've stayed sober, because I am now I've been present for so long that it doesn't feel like I'm just going to disappear like I used to. And you know, you get more trust. That's always amazing. It never ceases to amaze you whenever you can see like, wow, they are really trusting me so much more, like I'm actually doing this shit. So that's been amazing as well.
Especially with your dad, I feel so like so much sympathy for your father because
Oh, that poor man.
in your first book, you left his ass waiting at the airport to pick you up while you were on a binger right
Like
before
four times. I only wrote that I did it once, but I did it like four times. And I think it was once like consecutive nights in a row. Oh, I did terrible things to not only him, to everyone in my family. Just terrible things. You know, and it's things that we all do in our addiction, that we're cruel and we're mean and we're ugly. And it's because it's how we feel about ourselves, and we want to hurt someone else and we want someone else to hurt with us. So we just take them down in our claws. And it never feels good when you're doing it. And then what you can remember, you know, we were so blackout when we did it,
we so
but
were.
we so were. But to heal from that is it's almost like as low as you fall, you get to rise that much higher, you know.
One, two, I think your father, after getting sober for this time, that he still probably for a while had the back of his mind of like, when am I going to get that phone call again of dad, I'm checking into a rehab. And now you're two
Mm.
years in. So I bet that relationship, now that he doesn't have to worry or have that dark cloud hanging over his head, wondering, am I going to get the call again if I'm going into a rehab, probably helps those relationship tremendously.
Well, yeah, I mean, he can be excited for me again. He wasn't able to be excited for me for over a decade. He spent all of that time worried, and now he can be excited for, I don't know what he's going to do next, or but not in a bad way. Like
Hmm.
he's doing all these things, and it's so exciting. So yeah, you get to provide your friends and family with so much enjoyment just by thriving, and
Hmm.
that's such a gift that only sobriety can give you.
I mean, now you're making the phone call of Dad, I'm going to Switzerland rather than Dad, I'm going to Brook Meadows down the street or something.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, "Whoa, you just out there living your life, son." I'm like, "I know, watch me."
So in the book, we y'all went to a movie theater.
Yes, we do.
I don't know why the program or the rehab would let y'all walk into a movie theater with the amount of liquor that was probably on that wall. So for anybody that's like in early sobriety or just trying to get through it, like how were you able to go in there, see that booze, and like not fucking lunge for that shit?
Well, I that was a very specific case of being in rehab. And at that moment, I was truly afraid of going to prison. I thought that if I took one toe out of line, my life was honestly going to be done. I had no idea how far I had gotten myself. Like I was just so scared all the time. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to consume enough to do anything. So that drove a lot of it too. The individual it's yeah, Topher and I, he's a character that's in the book. He's a an alcoholic and a drug addict, and we see the bar, and then we go into the bathroom because we're like freaking out, and we're trying to, like, can we sneak away and take a drink, or should we not? We have this whole fucking meltdown. But but had I not been in a rehab, 100% would have gotten drunk, you know so if you're in early sobriety and you flee. That's what you need to do, is just flee. If you find yourself in that scenario, run. Or if you're strong enough to have the meltdown and come through without drinking, that would be like such a feather in your hat, honestly. So I don't really know what I would tell someone. You just got to live your fucking life and do your best.
I'm one of those firm believers in having a drink in hand. So anytime I go to a bar, a party that involves liquor, I always take something bubbly. So either like I think it's Martinelli's, the sparkling apple cider,
Oh yeah, that's an
or I'll do
excellent
like
idea.
club soda with something because and my alcoholism crazy. So I have to put the Martinelli's in a wine glass
Yeah.
because then I don't feel excluded from the party.
Yeah, you feel
But
part of.
but whatever gets you through it. I mean, if you have to do
Whatever gets you
soda,
through it.
yeah. I mean, if you have to just do straight club soda, so it tastes like shit like gin, then go for it, girl. Um,
Yeah.
so there was you're a smoker, and apparently you become a very heavy smoker in rehab because that's all
Uh-huh.
there is to do. You go
Uh-huh.
out to smoke one night, and there's a pentagram on the patio with, well, the details, other details will be saved. But there was a pentagram. You had to tell people. The staff had to like say, "Bitch, go to your room, lights out, hose." But whatever happened? I mean, the book didn't tell me.
Well, and we don't know. All I know is that that individual, he was there. I came upon him. I saw the whole scene. There was more that happened throughout that night. In the book, it seems much quicker, but they had to actually lock us down for a portion of the night because that was a case of, what happens is we have a system that is a bit broken, and that individual was not placed where they should have been placed. That individual was suffering from extreme mental illness compounded with hardcore drug use, which will put a person into a psychosis. Everyone listening, and you and I know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
So that individual was in one of those moments where they were fucking in another world and really truly believed it. And who knows what it was? And we were just kind of innocent bystanders. And I put it in there because it does seem very random. But I put it in there because that's rehab. That is, anyone that's gone to rehab will read that and be like, fucking A, 100%. Shit like that happens like every other day. It's just, And the how adaptable you are is amazing because you just go in and all this crazy shit's happening, but then you're having like this healing journey. And I needed to show an authentic portrayal of just the chaos of rehab.
Well, the thing is though, was he the whoever was doing it? Was he a member? Like, was he a patient in the rehab, or was he just somebody on the grounds?
He would have been. He was a new admit that had gotten there probably a couple hours before I walked out and saw what I saw. And then once everything transpired, he was moved to a psychiatric ward. And no, we never heard or saw from him
Okay.
again. But that happens a lot. People are misplaced. It's they need to go somewhere that is specialized for them, and it doesn't always happen that way.
Well, a lot of people when they're on drugs, people automatically assume it's just the drug that's causing them
Yeah,
the chaos, rather than what else, like any
to
mental
pause
issue.
and reflect. Isn't that what
Exactly.
like AA teaches us?
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
pause.
um. So, I mean, of course, you do speak with Daphne. Daphne from the rehab.
Yes, I
Because
do.
Kate and Daphne were like, no matter what happened, we need to keep in contact. Um. So, in all your rehab stints, um, was this the one that you kept in contact with the most people?
Definitely. Definitely. I keep in contact with Topher, Daphne. I've kept in limited contact with Vicky. I know what's going on with Zeke. I know what's going on with Maddie. I let's see, is there anyone else?
Which one was the
No.
older woman? She was the older one.
Vicky.
Okay, okay.
Vicky. She was the older lady nurse, yeah, and just such a we came in on the same day, and what I didn't write in the book was we had actually been to detox before together. We spent 5 days at or 4 or 5, something like that, at a detox, and then came over to that rehab together. But I needed Vicky was a composite of two different people. So I needed, for story purposes, I needed her to do other things. So I just left that out. But that's scene. Oh, we were talking about this one pre-recording. For the listeners, there's a note at the beginning of my book that says that everything that takes place from, I think it's like early March or late March to early October of 2019. So some characters are like two people smushed into one. Maybe one character, Aiden, was actually not at rehab. He was from a sober living home. So I took my experiences over that time and put them into this rehab. But a lot of the people, Topher, Zeke, Daphne, Alicia, Bree, Maddie, Jackson, Kate, really the only ones that aren't are Vicky and Aiden are the only ones that were put in.
Well, so talking about that then, so Aiden, at one point, y'all had to have a conversation, because y'all were caught essentially doing
Yeah.
nasty things.
Having a
Um,
rehab romance.
so did y'all get caught in the sober house, or was this just a
Yes.
story? Okay, okay.
Yes, everything that took place between Aiden and I in the rehab is an exact copy of what took place in the sober house. So we really did in the sober house have it wasn't like a little copse in the woods like in the book. We had a closet in this huge sober house that we would go to, and that was our like hidden space. And all of those conversations happened just as they were. I just plucked them from the sober house and put them into the rehab.
Well, good to know, because I mean, all the listeners, I mean, as you said, what happened took place. So I mean, don't discount anything in the book, because it is a very unique experience that I think a lot of people could benefit from reading. Um,
That was part of it too, is I wanted to get more education out there. So that was very
e-
important to me as well.
Education is key, girl. Um,
Yes, it is.
so in Wild Horses, which when I read the title of this chapter, I was like, oh my God, he's going to be out in the farm or something, and then some wild horses are going to gallop by, and this is going to be a spiritual awakening for him. Yeah, no, that's not what happened.
I
Um,
don't even remember what is this chapter. I'm like going to my galley
Wild
here. Like,
Horses, it's oh my God, it's
I
towards
know
the
why
end of
I
the book.
named it that, but I don't know what it is. 112.
Um, so in Wild Horses, somebody, I can't remember who said it for the life of me at the moment. It says, "Who cares if you've done all this before? None of that matters. What matters is you're doing this now." That sentence stuck
Yeah,
out to me because
yeah,
people struggle with relapse. Relapse is a very real thing for I would guesstimate at least like 80% of people in recovery. Um, and we allow our pride to get in the way when we relapse, and that's what causes us to stay out for so long.
100%.
So it's when, and I know in the 12 step rooms that I go to, people will be like, "Well, I've done this before. I've done this 10 years ago." Bitch, I don't care. Like, let's talk about the now. Yes, yes, yes. Everything that you experience in that time being, or the first over time, I think is very, very beneficial. But let's talk about the now and what you're doing now to stay sober. Um, so what did that like? How does that? What does that mean to you? The We'll say it again in case anybody tuned out or they're working and a coworker interrupted them. It says, "Who cares if you've done this all? Who cares if you've done this all before? And none of that matters. What matters is you're doing it now."
Yeah, what matters is you're doing it right now. And what matters is you forgiving yourself and taking care of yourself. And that is what matters. That's what I would say is like, especially as a chronic relapser myself that relapsed over and over and over and over and would get so hung up on that and would live in that guilt and shame and it was just my pride and it had nothing to do with anything, but it was easy for me to latch onto. It was easy for me to understand. It was easy because it gave me another excuse to drink. Really dismantling it and learning and growing from it, that was the hard thing to do. And I didn't want to do that. So I didn't do it. And I think that we all kind of do that until we're ready. So if you're relapsing over and over, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you've done before. It only matters what you do now.
Well, see, that's a different perspective than I have because me, I was seeing that as what you've done before in sobriety rather than what you've done before in addiction.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't matter what you've done before in addiction. It's what you're doing now, which is getting yourself fixed and sober, is what matters. That's like so. It's a, kind of a flip side of it.
okay. Yeah. No, I see that. Okay.
So talking about forgiveness, you and Topher were having a conversation, and Topher talked about it took him forgiving himself to want to stay sober. Because I think at this point you had kind of made the decision already that this was not long term for you. Um, and you broke down, you gave him a big hug. So I mean, forgiving yourself in what you did in addiction is so important, especially how you treated people, and for one, how you treated your damn self. Putting
Hmm.
yourself through all that. So I mean, have you reflected and forgave yourself?
Yes, definitely. I had to, didn't I? I wouldn't have been able to have moved forward. I can't speak for everyone, but I think that's how the majority of us are. I think you must forgive yourself and fall back in love with yourself in order to really sustain sobriety and happiness and to find your identity and your purpose. I think it's really simple at the end of the day, but it's fucking not. you know, it's like simple words that are like hard to do. But no, yeah, I understand. I understand why I did everything I did now. I wasn't capable of understanding it in the moment, but now I am and I have forgiven myself. And I'm so thankful that I was able to forgive myself because it freed me and and it can be done. It took me a long time, so if it's taking you a long time, listener, it'll be all right. I think something else I say is like, it'll happen when it's supposed to, and
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. It's all these things that we hear in the rooms, and we hear them over and over because they're so true. So rather than like hating them like I did, just lean into them because look, they can give you a lot of comfort.
What's crazy though is we tend to forgive other people faster than we forgive ourselves, especially I think for relapsers. Um, Forgiving ourselves for fucking up and allowing ourselves to fall off the wagon when we know what we're supposed to do to keep us sober and we know how much it can benefit us. I mean, you were in this rehab, what? How many days were you in this one?
Like 33 days.
And you talked about working out, that you were getting clarity again, that you started enjoying working out. You could tell how much it was like benefiting you and making you feel better, but yet you go right back out again.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's so hard to figure out ourselves, especially for people that relapse, because it's like shit. I did it. I knew I
And
wasn't
I,
supposed to.
well, and I don't think true forgiveness happens very quickly. I think and I've just written about this, so this is why I know it so much. But I realized that I had honestly forgiven myself and was proud of myself and was happy with myself and excited with myself just in July of this year. So we're talking right around the 2 year mark is when I was like, oh, I was in Switzerland on this mountaintop at night and just looking around and just amazed that I was even standing there compared to where I had been for so many years. You know, 3 year ago, Charlie would, there's no way in hell I could have thought that I would have been in Switzerland with a book published, writing a second. It was just, I couldn't even fathom it. So it takes a hot fucking minute for it really to sink in and like echo within you that, oh, I really do love myself again.
And I think
So
for
yeah.
anybody listening, it is a fucking journey for a reason. This is not, what is it? It's not a race, it's a marathon. Like, don't try to do it.
Yeah.
This is not a 100-meter dash. This
Yeah,
is something that
exactly.
takes time, effort, training, if you want to call it that. Not training it's right, but just training, the fact of like, it's a
Training
daily
is
thing
great.
that
Relapse
you.
is training. Yeah, like you're right. That's 100% right. Yeah.
So
It is a marathon.
we go talking about people going to rehab and your advocacy for rehab. You There was a conversation. I think the conversation was with yourself, to be honest. Um, that people think that others that go to rehab are lesser or less than, but you talk about the strength that it takes to, for one, admit it to yourself that you need rehab, let alone make that damn phone call. So talk about you mustering up that strength and what it took for you to make those phone calls for it to go into rehabs.
It takes an enormous amount of strength to admit a fault about yourself, regardless if it's an addiction or anything, for you to, in earnest, say, this is an attribute about me that I am not proud of, and I want help fixing it. That takes all your strength to do that. So, anyone that can come forward and say that and ask for help, in my eyes, is an extremely strong person. I didn't take ownership of my strength for many, many years, but I take full ownership of my strength now. I mean, just everything that I've been through, I'm loss and growing up where I did, how I, just so many things, alcoholism. It's like I am I should be like 8 foot tall, you know? And and we must recognize and nurture that within ourselves. If you've ever come forward and said, I have a problem and I need help, then you are so strong and you have that strength within you and you can tap into it anytime you need to. It's just that you're not letting yourself do it for whatever reason, but you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish calling for a rehab was as easy as asking the bartender for your drink.
Oh
The thing is,
yeah.
a lot of people's pride, again, pride. Oh my God, it always goes back to fucking pride and ego.
It's
Um,
pride and fear. It's fear, and it's you don't know. Just like you were saying earlier, picking up the phone and calling a rehab. There is so much going. Am I going to lose my job? What am I going to tell people? Like, who's going to take care of my cat? There's just so much that why the fuck would you pick up the phone and call rehab? Why wouldn't you just go get another drink? You know? So it takes absolute desperation and a desire to get better to make that phone call. That's why, that's why I harp rehab. It's like if someone has got to the point where they're going to rehab, then they do want definite change in their life. And even if they're doing it over and over and it looks like they don't, you're not walking in their shoes. You don't know what it's like to have to make those decisions repeatedly. Yes, they do want change. They're just, man, they got the fucking booze bug bad, real bad.
Well, and talking about the pride is, for me, it's, I would prefer to swallow my pride and go into a rehab with my tail tucked between my legs than I would to die in addiction because I was too prideful and to make that phone call. Because the thing is, that's what's going to happen if people, if you're in active addiction, that the end of the road, if you don't get help, is going to be death. Cirrhosis of the liver. There's, I mean, overdose. Fentanyl's fucking everywhere right now. And so the thing is like,
Absolutely.
would
It'll
you
be a
prefer
wasted life.
exactly? I mean, would you prefer death, fucking having to depend on this drug or drink, or would you prefer to, for 30 days, swallow your damn pride and get some fucking help? I mean, ask for help. It's hard to ask for help, but once you do, especially I think in sobriety, hope is always there, always.
Oh yeah, help is always there for those who want it or need it. Always there.
So to end things on a lighter note, or not end things, not ended yet, but so you liked to chase your vodka with pickle juice.
Yeah. Well,
So
I love
can,
pickles.
that was going to be my next question. Can you still eat pickles?
Oh, absolutely. I would never. I would never betray pickles because of vodka. I would never disrespect them that way. Like that would be fucked up of me. Like the pickles were with me before the vodka, and I'll be damned if the vodka's gonna take them from me. You know? I'm very passionate about pickles, clearly. I don't know where that all came from, but it's the truth.
Have you ever on TikTok? I see it all the time where they take a pickle and like roll it up in like fruit roll ups or something like that, and then
Oh, fruit
chamoy it
roll-ups?
and then eat it.
Oh no. I
How
mean, power to the people. Do it. Eat a pickle any fucking way you want. I haven't done it that way. No, I'd try it. It sounds absolutely disgusting, but I'd try it.
I mean, hey, listen, with the things that we put in our body, you think a fruit roll up
Yeah.
pickle is gonna be the
Well,
worst?
we only live once. Yeah.
Exactly. So of course, we're done with this book, so I don't want to give too much away because there is so much detail in this book. Um, so what is going to be the third book? Because I noticed at the end of this book it talks about, I don't, oh God, May, I believe it is 2023.
Yes.
The You're going to come out with the third one. So what is the third one going to encompass?
Well, so the first one was just like basically 2010 to 2021, pre-alcoholism, alcoholism, sobriety. This one is really a love letter to relapse. It's all about, and this one I wanted to step back to. The second one is what I'm talking about, the frog's bottle. I wanted it to be, I mean, obviously it's still fucking all about me because I'm an alcoholic and it has to be, but I tried to not make it all. There's a lot less about my family, a lot less about me, a lot more about others, how addiction and relapse impacted them. And the third one, I kind of realized, well, I've done all this great work of like telling my journey and talking about relapse, but I have never told anyone, like, how did I get sober? How have I stayed sober? What do I think got me sober? Because I'm also very vocal that I don't do AA, I don't do smart recovery, I don't do religion. So, like, how the fuck is he staying sober? You know? And I need to answer that because it is a rather unique approach that I think many people use. They're just not vocal about it. And I kind of talk about like my character attributes, and the third one I'm going way back into when I was like 10 and just taking people on a journey of who I am inherently and how that was altered by alcoholism and how I came out of it and what I think got me through it. I didn't articulate that as well as I'd like to, but
I mean, I think the point got across. I all I
Yeah.
thought when you said that it was like, oh, I do this, and most people do, but they don't talk about it. All I thought was like, girl, his next thing is gonna be Gray's 12 step to recovery.
Right? That's I mean, and it's 12 chapters. No, but it does talk a lot just about there's so many things that can keep us sober, and we don't have to just go to one thing, and we can use multiple, or you can do just whatever works for you. I just felt like if I was to kind of talk about the approach that I've taken and the lifestyle that I now live, that might be helpful to some people that are like, religion's never been my thing, and I don't really want to go to a meeting, but I want to stay sober. So,
Well, especially
and
for people that search out like smart recovery or CBT, like those meetings are like so few and far between.
oh yeah, and they're kind of they can be a little bit exclusive, a little like vernacular heavy. They can be a little hard for someone that has never had therapy, has never, that's just trying to get in. It can be a lot of knowledge that can kind of turn them off. So, yeah.
Exactly. So before we end the episode, what is something that you haven't shared that you would like to share with everybody?
I think that I have a problem with collecting cats. And when you asked me if I'd had a boyfriend, I was going to be like, I don't think I'm ever there when they see the cats. Like, so I just had my one cat, and then I moved to this different house, and now there's like more cats, and I really like cats. I guess that's all I wanted to say.
I mean, for gay men, what is it about gay men and their pussycats?
I don't know. I didn't. It came out of nowhere, man. I never had a pet. I was drunk all the time. Fuck it. But he's like that cat has changed me, and it's wow, I get it now. I get it. And now I'm talking about my cat. Go buy my books. Don't listen to me talk about my cat. Go buy my books.
Oh my god, I think your next book is gonna be how your cat impacted your life. Um,
Oh, he's so in it. He already is. So yeah, you're right.
so for anybody that hasn't listened to the first episode, go check it out. It's episode I believe four, right around there. Um, and
Oh,
if
it was so
anybody hasn't
early.
isn't following, yeah, you reached out to me like hella
I
fast
did. I jumped on you. I was like, listen, we both trying to make a hustle here. I'll help you. You help me. And then what a beautiful thing it turned into.
because we have stayed in communication at least like twice a week since
Yeah,
and
it's really nice.
you're like the only guest. No, let me back that up. You're out of 50 guests that I've had, I would say you're one of three that actually stay in contact.
Wow, I feel really special.
Yeah, you are like they're not the short bus special. I mean, with nothing wrong with that, but um, I think it's I don't and I've tried what's so crazy. You know what? We'll discuss that after the show.
Yeah.
So if anybody's not following on social media, or cannot figure out a place where to buy your books, where can they do this?
Well, you can go to Amazon. They are only available on Amazon. And all you have to do is search for At Least I'm Not the Frog. That's the first book. Or The Frog's Bottle. That's the second one. You can search my name, Charlie Gray. Or the title of the complete trilogy will be Charlie and the Frog. Really, if you type any of that into Amazon or Google, you're going to find me. Um, I do want to do this though. I've been trying to educate people on because I know that money is tight for a lot of people, and buying books is like a luxury. So if you can't afford, my ebook is only $2.99, and the Kindle app is free. So all you have to do is just download the Kindle app, and you only have to pay $2.99. So if cost is a thing, I really have tried to make it as inexpensive as possible.
Which is very much appreciated for.
Inexpensive. Inexpensive is not a word.
It is for us. We can make up whatever words we want. And where do they
Right.
find you on Instagram?
At His Majesty Charles III.
which is
stupid
the
as fuck.
longest, as I say, the longest Instagram handle ever.
It's so dumb. Just always search at least I'm not the frog and you'll find me.
All right, well, you apparently you're known for pickles and frogs now.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie, you have a wonderful night. Okay,
Thanks, you too, man.
bye. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober-owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.